Welcome to Chapter Sass, the podcast where we deep dive into the books that make you blush, gasp, and maybe even think a little. I'm your host, Season, and with every book, I'll be joined with a new co-host with their own hot take. From spicy romances to messy love triangles and all the glorious chaos in between, we're here with a fresh perspective to unpack the stories we love, question what we think we know, and explore how the book speaks to us. Things might even get a little sassy. This episode is rated mature and will contain spoilers. Let's get into the first chapter. Welcome back, everyone. We are going to be covering chapters 16 through 20 from Blood of Hercules. This is the Villain of Lore series by Jasmine Mas. Hello, my lovely co-host. How are you? Hello, Danielle. What are you drinking today?
As always, regular old tap water. Thank you, Lake Michigan, for that. And then in my Ohamos mug, I am drinking this flavor of Spindrift that's supposed to taste like a Cosmopolitan.
You always have some curious drinks. I need to be hanging out with you when we record these.
No, this existed. A man left this in my house.
Oh, okay. Well, love that. Love that. Okay. See, I need to be with you when you make that iced tea thing, whatever you had last week. I'm like, I need to taste that. Okay. I'm calling this, I have a straw in it, but I'm calling this the start of a lover's obsession. I took pictures, so I'll post on social media, but I'm still dry. I can start drinking again Sunday, box to Saturday. So this is just ginger, a little bit of lime and watermelon in it. And then I still stuck with my ice mold, mainly because I couldn't find the other ice molds that I have. And I do have a whole bunch, but the rose one was already made. And then I just put 2 green leaves, which are mints. And if you get it, you get it. Like growth and rebirth is like coming out of the drink. And if you read to the end, everyone, you know why I did that. So cheers.
Cheers.
Woo! Next week I can have an actual cocktail.
Ohamos.
Almost. Oh, that is good. I love when I do a ginger. It's like a nice little refresher.
Wait, did you make it and not try it?
Not this one. I make this all the time. Or not all the time, but I kind of make it when Keith and I go like on our little health kicks or whatever. We have like a juicer and stuff, and so I'll make a whole bunch of like different like juices. And so like I've made it before, but I didn't taste it right now because I was like, oh, it'll taste. But this is actually really good. I think I put a little bit more ginger. It's a little a little bit more spicier.
Nice.
Love it. All right, let's get into the next chapter. So we left off at an Augustus chapter, and this is Augustus's point of view, and we had just left the bullies. He was like defending Alexis because the bullies were mean to her. She attacked them, but like he like went into their minds and was like, leave Alexis alone. So, and he also agreed to do Karen's plan. We'll get into his name a little bit in like a chapter or two. But whatever it is, it's just he was just like, I agree, we need to do this plan. So we don't know what that plan is yet, but we now have it. So chapter 16, Haunted, is Alexa's point of view. And every time we get Alexa's point of view, I don't mind it, but I'm always like, when are we getting another person's point of view? Because I just want to be like, what is true and what is not true? I don't know what to think anymore. But anyways, Alexis is back at her mentor's house, and this is again after the library incident. Troll is looking at Alexis and is like completely like disgusted. And he's like, why is your nose broken? He just like doesn't understand. She's such like a liability at this point. And he's being rude. Like he's like, there are times where he kind of cares, but like he's not really caring at this second. He's showing very little compassion. And like she's killing it for the most part. Like we went through, she did instead of 2 weeks, she had to do 4 weeks at one point. She's not at the bottom of her class. Like you would think he would give her just a little bit more compassion, and he just doesn't. So while they're like arguing, Karen appears out of nowhere, and Alexis is getting turned on. She doesn't realize she's getting turned on, but she is getting turned on by Karen. I love your facial expression. I love it. So then Karen tells them everyone in Sparta is talking about Alexis. And Karen turns to her and says, like, I told you not to harm yourself. And Alexis thinks to herself, he's only he only cares because she put Petros and Achilles' ability to become generals at risk. He doesn't care about me. So she starts to like kind of defend herself during all this. And while this is going on, Alexis notices shadows and hears two voices. But when she looks, there's nothing. There's nothing. And I know what these two voices are. I am not going to say anything until Danielle gets to that point, but it is very important. And like now going, because I'm going back and rereading, I like missed how much they talk about these shadows. So just know it's important. I mean, you clearly clicked that was important, but just know that it's important. It's important. And then Karen explains the library incident to Petros and Achilles. However, his version of the story is slightly different than what we get in Alexis chapter when it was happening. So Karen explains that Alexis punched Titus. Titus punched her back in retaliation. Then Alexis kneed him in the balls, and as he came up, she kneed him in the face. And if I remember correctly, when Alexis was explaining this, she said she punched Titus. Titus punched her back. She kneed him in the balls, and he stayed down because he was kneed in the balls. And I was thinking to myself when that was going on, and like Titus never got back up. Like, okay, I'm not a guy. I've never been kneed in the balls. But I was like, there's no way she just hit another guy with a chair and all this happened, and you didn't get back up, and you're supposed to be like training to be a Spartan. So, but now it makes sense because we missed that she kneed him in the face. And then when Alexander approached her, and this is again according to Karen, she bludgeoned him with the chair. And Alexis is like, I tapped him with the chair like once. And again, this makes much more sense because I was like, she just hit him once with the chair. Like, so in her head, this was like nothing. She's like, oh, it was barely anything. And that is not what happened at all. So again, Alexis is not the most reliable narrator. Then Karen explains after that that Alexis puked all over Alexander. And she was like, that's not what happened. And Karen like turns to her and is like, did you not puke on her? I'll puke on him? She's like, yeah, but like that's not how it went down. So again, it's just anytime we get to an Alexis chapter and something good happens, I have no idea if I can believe everything that she's saying. Like I really am like, I need another person's point of view during all this. So while they're going back and arguing, Karen like repositions Alexis's nose because it's broken, but Karen also uses his powers, and he allows his power is to allow other people to have them feel what like he's feeling, and she feels like obsession when he does that. So he's like, and she gets kind of scared, kind of turned on. Again, she doesn't know what being turned on is, but hopefully we'll help her with all this. And then in this chapter, it is very clear that Petro and Achilles do not know who Alexis is. It is just Karen and Augustus. So because they like make comments like she's nothing, she's still a mutt. They are the two of them are keeping this close to their heart. Like they're not even telling anyone. So then Karen dismisses the Crimson Duel so that he can speak with Alexis alone, and he yells at her saying that she's a liar. How dare she risk herself, putting herself like in harm's way and bringing dishonor. And again, Alexis is confused because she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then Karen is like, what did you call me? And Alexis is like, Karen. Karen gets mad. And we've been all pronouncing it incorrectly, though in the audiobook up until now, it has been pronounced Karen. It's pronounced like Karen with like an accent or whatever, but I'll just say Karen for this case and purposes. There's like an accent in there. And then Karen says like he's almost proud of her for standing up for herself. However, he warns her that he will be watching her. And Alexis just like runs out, runs out. Meanwhile, Nyx, I love this goddamn snake. I love her so much. She's like, wow, now that's a real mate. I haven't felt that type of energy around a man in ages. Although Augustus does have similar protective instincts. They're good men, Alexis. He's driven and relentless. He's not one of those sissy boys today who doesn't even know how to kill. Whoever he loves, they will be protected for the rest of their lives. He will be a devoted, possessive, if you know what I mean. And Nick's is saying this like all romantic, and Alexis is like, "You're crazy! Like, what the fuck are you talking about?" But then Alexis like thinks, "I just got back from the library incident. Like, it just happened. How the hell did Karen know what happened in the library? Like, how does all of Sparta know when this literally just happened? Like, there hasn't been enough time to all the kids, we all just got back." So it's just making you think about certain things like how is he getting all of this information? Do you know? Or have you figured out? Have you guessed?
No, I do though think that Kaharan is a hot gossip because there's some stuff that like comes up
Mm,
later.
mm,
This dude created this, right? Like he's got a little of a hot goss vibe.
mhm,
One thing that I really appreciated in this chapter was we finally see Alexis seeing what other people see, right? So up until this point in the book, we've seen it as other people narrating Alexis to us. And this is the
mhm,
first time that she's experiencing someone else narrating what's happening, right?
Oh, yes.
And what makes it kind of tricky is like, because she's at the academy and she's being starved and sleep deprived and all of these things, she's even further in a position of like not having awareness maybe of her own reality, right? So that already contributes to her being like, no, that's not what happened. That's not what I did. Um,
mhm,
and we're repeatedly seeing people reference Sonic lives to Alexis of like, you have to protect Sonic lives. Sonic lives are rare, this sort of thing. And she's always receiving the information as people protecting her mentors. Nobody is ever just flat out saying to her, you are Sonic, knock it off.
mhm.
Right. So she's still operating in all of these like ways that are just sort of like a complete lack of understanding on her part.
This around this chapter, because we were always speculating that she was, I mean, we were like, she's Sonic from the beginning, but I feel like this chapter really solidified that she's like Sonic. Like they're like even though I was like 100% sure before, I feel like this chapter really solidified, especially with like the Karen chapter a little bit before. I was like, oh, she has to be Sonic. So now it's just like, who are her parents? But then something else I thought about this was like about maybe 2 chapters ago, her mentors told her the only strategies that there are is to seduce, kill, and beat them. And in Alexis's head, she's not a killer. She hasn't killed anybody, so kills off the table, right? She she definitely can't seduce, and she doesn't want to seduce, so seduce is off the table. So now, but like, do we think this could be her way of trying to beat them physically and mentally? Because we know up until now she's like always been like second or third in her class, so she is high up there. And now she pretty much beat up two bullies and was like no one's gonna want to touch her now, whether she used her powers or not. She didn't use her powers, but like if she had these powers, like was this her way, her her version of being street smart way of trying to do a strategy?
Don't know because I still don't know that Alexis has enough awareness of herself to like be executing that, right? The other part of it too is like, yes, she has these intelligence and these test scores and she can beat them in that way, but there's still a much larger physical element of that. And even when they're like running the crucible and those sorts of things, like we see her repeatedly, not necessarily like needing help in that realm, but the help that she does receive certainly is an assistance that like gets her through it, right? So I still even question some of the physical end of it a little bit. But one thing that we do know is she can murder. She just doesn't know that she can murder, right? So that's like when I'm like, these are the three options. I'm like, girl, you already killed.
Yeah.
You've
Yep.
already, I get that like you think it's wrong or whatever, and maybe that's why you've tricked yourself into, oh, I didn't do that, but you've already done it. So like just Just keep going.
No, I mean, Nyx would probably be saying the same thing. Like I said, I absolutely love Nyx's character. I absolutely love her character. She needs a Nyx in her life.
I think Nyx
So
would vote
anyway,
for seduce.
you think Nyx would what? Sorry.
Nyx would vote for seduce. Nyx is pretty pervy.
Oh, Nyx would 1000% be like, let's seduce. I don't know if you heard that for anyone who's there. I do have my phone on Do Not Disturb. However, my boyfriend we're all in a group chat. My boyfriend just texted me. He's on my favorites. So, like, his text messages will always go through. So, and the other group chat is popping already. There's 15 messages already. So, you might hear the beep a few more times, but we'll see. We'll see.
I thought it was my washing machine.
Oh, nope. It's a text message. He's on my favorite, so he gets to go through.
Mhm.
So after Alexis like runs away from Karen and she like eats, she does, she's there to eat, so she eats, showers. When she goes to bed, she dreams of a bloody eyes watching her, a strange obsessive likeness, two voices whispering, and skeletons. So do with that as you will. The next day, Alexis, her day when she's with her mentors pretty much consists of her just like lollygagging. She's like just chilling, and she was swimming in the water. And for a hot second, I thought she's not. This is a theory. She's not. I thought for a hot second, maybe she could be Poseidon's daughter because of how much she loves the water. Because they mentioned like she used to swim all the time in the lake back at home. And even now, like when she's at her mentor's house, she just like is always swimming. So I was like, ooh, could she be Poseidon's kid? Like for 2 seconds, and then other shit happens, and I was like, she can't be Poseidon's kid. But anyways, the Lexus is swimming. She's just like swimming. Two Spartan chasers, aka their version of the paparazzi, like start snapping pictures of Alexis. And Alexis runs back inside and tells like her mentors about them. Aaron, I guess, has never gone home. He was still there. And he asked, like, did they take pictures of you? And he has like death written in his eyes. Like he's like, I'm about to kill. And she's like, no, nothing happened. And then the Crimson Duo are like, she's clearly lying. And he like vanishes. He transports himself out of there and he kills. That was the last day the paparazzi lived. But we're starting to get that that Karen is gonna start doing crazy shit for Alexis. He was like, no one should be taking pictures of you. This is the start of a lot of other shit he's about to do. I can't wait for you to get to book 2 because he does something and it's like romantic, but not romantic at the same time. And I'm gonna ask Keith. I'm gonna get on camera and I'm gonna ask Keith what he does when he ever do that for me and see what he says. Because it's like romantic, but it's like not romantic either. It's like, dude, what the fuck? But you'll see, you'll see. Anyways, this is the start of his obsession, right? And so she like freaks out. She stays back and she eats. She does everything. It's the nighttime again. She's like just chilling in her bed and she starts to hear the creaking sounds again. She still can't put two and two together that people are having sex. But this time, instead of it coming from like her wall, it's coming from outside. Or she thinks it's coming from outside. She like looks at the lounge chair, and for some reason, the lounge chair is covered in shadows, but like her room is completely lit up by the moon. So like those shadows should not be there. Once she realizes like for sure the sound's coming from outside, she goes outside. The creaking sound is she finds Petrol giving Achilles head. So this is like a very quick, spicy scene. It's not as long as I think any of us will like it, but it is a very quick, spicy scene. And but I think we get another side of the duel because up until now, we've only seen these mean, inconsiderate people. Like these two men who like don't care about Alexis right now, don't do anything. And they are having like a passionate a time. They tell each other that they love each other. Keep in mind, Achilles still has his muzzle on. Like they are very tender with each other. And Alexis, I don't know if this is the first time she's ever seen people give head or anything, but like she's kind of a little bit, I would say, shocked in all this. and she starts to head to bed. Nyx is sleeping, but she says to Nyx, "I get what you mean about the violence being romantic. Like, I was wrong." So she might be forgiving people soon. Who knows? I don't know. But
Well,
she started to see another side.
yeah. I do think this part was one of the things that continues to frustrate me about the way that this character was written because
Why now?
right, she's supposedly so prudish and she doesn't know these things. But when we get to this scene, she very clearly knows what's happening. Right? She even clearly knows that like someone has come on their face. She says that explicitly. So there's
Right, but I don't think okay, not to cut you off, but like 12, I don't know what age school does it nowadays, but like whatever age, kids are taught like what cum is and whatever. I don't know if she's like physically like this might be the first time she's seen it, but I do think she knows like what cum is. Like I do think she knows what like she does have Charlie at the end of the day. Like they don't say this in the book, but I would assume at one point she's experienced or he's had morning wood or whatever, like not that it's towards her, but like, like I'm sure she's like aware of those type of things. I think it's the actual act that like she's never done and not necessarily aware of, if
I
that makes
guess
sense.
for me, it's just the back and forth with it. It's
Mm.
like, we're repeatedly presented with these ideas that like that she doesn't have this knowledge or that she's uncomfortable with it and all of this. And then all of a sudden we have these very brief moments where it's like, she can describe it exactly and like all of a sudden talk about it in a way that's not like timid, you know?
Mhm.
And so sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, which one are you? Like, are you only that when it like is your own body, right?
Oh, maybe.
Because that's when we see that more is it's like someone touched me or I don't want this or that sort of thing. But for whatever reason, when it's like peeping in on other people, she's able to be like, oh, here's what happened and be more comfortable with talking about it.
Yeah. This, to your point, would have been a very good scene for them to be like, let me teach you, because they're already doing the deed outside anyways. But that's not what happened. I would also like to say that I was wrong. I just assumed that like while they were at home, Achilles got to take off his muzzle. Like, why the hell would you keep that on? Especially if Petro's the only one who's your keeper of your key to your muzzle. So like why would he just not like undo it? Especially during sex. Like there's so much you can do with your mouth. Like why it's covered now. But I was wrong. His muzzle stays on and all, all the time. He never takes it off, even in his own house. So do you feel a little bad for him?
Nope.
Well, no, I do. No, I feel bad because that wasn't his choice. That was, remember, he's forced to wear that by like the Federation or whatever. We get told that like chapter like 2 or whatever. Like
Yes.
it wasn't his choice to like keep that shit on.
But it's presented to us that he's forced to wear that in public. He's forced to wear that like when they're out doing the murder stuff or whatever, right? It's not
Yeah.
explicitly said to us that he has to have it on at all times.
Gotcha. That's true. Well, he never takes
Well,
it off, so I assume it's at all times.
sometimes, you just get like adjusted to your harness or adjusted to your cuffs or adjusted to your restraints or whatever, right? And there's actual like comfort in those things, right?
Mm.
Like, and so I get what you're saying that like when you are participating in a sexual realm, we would just sort of assume like get that muzzle off and make use of all your body, right?
Yeah.
But it's possible that there's some sort of like mental or emotional aspect that comes along with that muzzle. And not only that, but your partner having the power over that muzzle. There's
That's true.
something fantastic about like
He has to trust them. He
right,
truly has to trust them.
right. Like people assume that if you're submissive, like you're just kind of like not in control or anything, but that's not accurate. Like when you are submissive, you have to choose to give your dom that power. And there's a lot of trust and respect and love and like an emotional and spiritual work in that exchange. So that exchange can be just as hot as like a dicky.
You're right. You're right. I would prefer not a muzzle, so if that makes me a little vanilla, that makes me a little vanilla. But I would prefer to be able to use my mouth. Well, first of all, I love talking and whatever, so, like, that would just be terrible. Like, the muzzle in itself, like, outside of sex, it just wouldn't work for me. So, it's not working. It's not working for me at all. Again, now that we're going back to, like, we see a more sensitive side of the Crimson Jewel. And I think, like you said, to your point, so much trust has to be established because they do everything together. Like, Zeus even said when he made everyone else has one mentor, she has two, and they said because of this unique relationship, you need to get two of these. So I just take that and I'm just like, oh, I want to know more about them now, right? Because now we've seen a second side to them. And I think Alexis also sees a second side to them. And it's like, I want to get to know these characters more in depth. And I'm going to be honest, we don't really get more from these. I mean, we do get a little bit more, but like, I want like a novella on them. I want to know their whole story. Like, I want a separate book because I think they have a very interesting story. Anyways, Alexis finally goes back to sleep. She dreams of a hand on her ankle, two skeleton monsters whispering to each other, and dark promises. And in the background, Charlie is shivering in a cardboard box, begging for Alexis to come. Dun 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 dun. I highlighted that because I don't know if that means maybe she can see the future or like I don't know if this is her power, if that makes sense. Because Charlie's not with her. So I don't know if this is just like a dream. She really is seeing Charlie or any of that, but like I highlight that so I can come back to it. Chapter 17, the mirage, how do we say that? The miragerie. It's where all the animals are. So this chapter starts off with all the initiates heading there for the very first time. They're supposed to like try to see if they feel anything with certain animals. But we do learn a few rules during this. The first rule is unless an animal approaches you, you can't approach the animal because there are animals that will kill them in there. And then you also have the right to defend yourself if an animal attacks you, but no one else can interfere. And these animals are like created from different creatures, like their ancestry. So like they're like a hybrid of different things. So it's like a bird mixed with something or an alligator that can like they're mix of different things. And this place is a paradise. So like meanwhile they're freezing in this goddamn cold mountain, but like they walk in and it is sunny, there's so much greenery. It's like a very happy place to be in. And as Alexis is walking through, all the animals like growling at her and then running away. And Alexis like sees all the other initiates, and when she like kind of passes them, the animals growl that they're even though they're with another person and run away. So like moisture burns in Alexa's eyes and she just thinks to herself, like, why are these animals acting like I'm some terrifying monster? Apparently I'm hard to love. And I took that sentence and I was like, because I do try to like resonate with the characters, even though they're fiction, even though they're fake. But like this is something that I'm sure Alexis deals with all the time because her foster parents didn't love her. Her real parents got rid of her. She didn't have friends at school. She's now surrounded by people who want to kill her. The only people that I mean, Drax is kind of nice to her, but like she's tutoring him. Like she doesn't have Charlie right now, and like she only really has Nick. Like, and now she's like, I'm not lovable. So I can like I feel like that is sad. Like she was tortured. She was abused as a kid. Like those scars have to run deep just as a character. So then Alexis hears a growl and starts to freak out, but then out comes a small white dog. And this dog is a mess. Like the book describes the dog of having like clumps of shapen like hair, like white patches of fur protruding from its shoulders and its butt. It has overgrown fangs. Its paws are like 10 sizes too big for its tiny body. It almost looks like a husky if you squint your eyes and ignore the teeth. So but this this puppy has glowing purple eyes. And as of right now, the only other person that we know that has glowing purple eyes is that fate lady. So I don't know if that is going to be important, but I do think eyes are important in this because they do like certain people have very certain colored eyes and it is made throughout the book that like these are the eye colors. So I'm just wondering now if the fate has anything to do with this dog because it has
Yeah,
purple eyes.
and even though, like, as we go through the book, I mean, everybody's eye color is frequently mentioned, but it's never really mentioned as, like, why it's important, right? Except that, like, when a Thonic is pissed, their eyes turn red, right? But we also know in the book that everyone is freaked out by Alexis' eyes because she's got 2 different colored eyes. So, I do think that it is some sort of system that exists that allows people to identify one another. What it actually
Oh,
means and how much importance it carries, I don't really know.
yeah. I don't know either yet, to be completely honest, but I do think the eyes mean something. So then after realizing like the dog is not a threat, Alexis decides to call him Fluffy Jr. And Fluffy Jr. starts to like follow Alexis. And he's not the smartest bulb in the shed at all. Like he keeps eating twigs and puking them and he's like grabbing like the twigs from like the wrong angle and like choking all over them. And when Nix finally sees this, she's like, "Oh, dude, you named it?" Because everyone knows once you name something, you're gonna keep it. So she's like, "I'm gonna invite this dog and take it out of its misery." So as they leave, they have to go back to like all their tests and their torture. But this time we find out Alexis is number one in her class and Drax is number four. And he gets all excited and he like elbows Alexis because he's just like excited that he's like finally her tutoring is paying off. And Augustus is there and Alexis makes the comment, Augustus looks like he was gonna kill him for like touching her. So again, we don't even know how much is true because it's from Alexis's point of view, but and this is where we're seeing a very like possessive side. Then the initiates are told that they get to go to the symposium later that night, and everyone's excited, mainly because they're gonna have food, and I'm sure the guys are thinking because they can have fun. So as class is dismissed, Augustus asks Alexis to stay back, and they're like not even speaking, but there's like all this tension between them. And finally, when they just like they start to talk, Augustus tells Alexis that women are not normally allowed at at the symposium, but the Federation made an exception since she's already participating in the Crucible. No honor will be lost. So Zeus wants to speak to her. Then Augustus goes on to say, but you don't have to attend if you don't feel comfortable. If this isn't like really a place for a young woman like yourself. But mind you, like 3 chapters ago, he's like yelling at her, you're a disgrace, blah, 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 you're bringing dishonor. Back to what Augustus was saying. But then he's like, especially since Karen told me about you. Y- On the honor of being the Thonic heir, I will not allow it. I'll inform Zeus that you'll stay here at the academy. And then Augustus is like, nope, I'll go. There's no problem. I can go to the symposium. But she's not going for like this honor. She's literally thinking to herself, I'm starving and I just want to eat. Like, I don't care what you guys do. Like, I am there for food. Augustus gets mad and pretty much pushes Alexis like against the blackboard and tells her this is not her place. It is her duty to it is his duty to protect her. And then Augustus uses his powers against Alexis and tells her, I'm sorry, that she can't go. And this is the exact same thing that he did with Titus and Alexander. And he was able to complete it with Titus and Alexander. But somehow, Alexis, who has not practiced any mental defenses of anything, is able to push him out of her mind. But Augustus was able to like fuck her up enough for like she did feel the effects. So she's like bleeding from her eyes, her ears, her nose, mouth, whatever, like all these things. And then Alexis also notes that like Augustus' body language is saying something very different than the words he is saying. But Alexis is like, nope, I'll be there. And then Augustus says, oh, our man Augustus saying some of the ridiculous shit. He says, you're a woman in a man's world to dishonor. on all of us for you to be allowed to continue. Make smarter choices, or there will be consequences, Alexis. You're not proving what you think you're proving for women. You're screwing yourself. Alexa heads back to the library and she like breaks down and cries. Like she has I mean, she's tired, she's hungry, she was yelled at, she was violated at some point, and she just like breaks down. And then all of a sudden, she feels like the hairs on her back prickling, and she hears the voices. But she didn't bother to look up because she's like, "It's all in my head." Do you have any thoughts on that chapter before we get to chapter 18, the symposium?
Yeah, I mean, I think I still, with Augustus, go back to him protecting his sister, right? So we know that there's a possessiveness of Alexis that's like going into another realm, right? Of like jealousy when someone else is touching her or that sort of thing. But when he is threatening towards her like that, I still receive it very much as he's trying to force her into a position that enables him to protect his sister, right? But I think one of the things that's interesting is Alexis is starting to redefine like how he engages towards her or like what his irritation is actually at, right? For the longest time, she's been like, he's glaring at me, he's doing this to me, right? Like, and again, it's her narration, and we know she's not quite the best at it. But now that she's engaging with other people, like now that she's like just a wee bit less socially awkward, we are seeing that the possessiveness or maybe the looks that she was receiving and things like that, she's now recognizing aren't for her, they're for the people around her. Um, I still, I mean, I get it, right? Like she's socially awkward and she doesn't know, but I'm still sort of like, come on, get with the program. Like you you need to understand there's got to be some part of you that understands why this man is behaving this way, right? Like now that you have felt those sensations in your stomach, which gets said again, the fucking stomach again.
She realizes that it's not in her stomach. She doesn't know. She doesn't know. So I'm gonna go with
Somebody transport me to this motherfucking academy so I can talk to this girl and be like, honey, that is not your stomach.
uh,
I can't. I can't.
maybe it's her way of also trying to be like she's getting butterflies, but she doesn't realize it's butterflies because you do feel butterflies kind of in your stomach.
Okay. I'll accept that.
Maybe that's her version of saying she feels it in her stomach, and it's not. She not doesn't realize she's not feeling it in her vagina.
Yeah. I still think it would greatly benefit her for somebody to just be like, yo, you are chthonic, right? Because also a very large part of this protectiveness is coming from other chthonic people who need to
Mhm.
procreate, right? And it's like there
Yeah.
aren't a lot of options for chthonic women to make children with.
Right, but remember there's the marriage law. That's the whole point. Did we talk about that last time? Like the whole marriage law on who they can and cannot marry. But I honestly, and this isn't just this book. This isn't almost a lot of books that I read, especially romance books. I just want to be like, you guys just sat and talked just for 2 fucking seconds and explained half of I mean, then there would be no plot. But like just think about it. Then Achilles and Petra will probably be treating her a little bit differently. They probably, would bend over backwards a bit. She could still play stupid. She could still play Zeus's kid. She can, you know what I mean? Like they can still pretend she's an abandoned Olympian mutt. Like that doesn't work. But like everyone else on this side, like she could know. Like I mean, you could take the story in so many different places. But again, then probably the plot would be just different and whatnot. But I that is one of my things in a lot of books. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my god, fucking talk to each other.
Yeah. I do find the idea interesting though that like Augustus knows, like Karen knows that she's Sonic, right? We're seeing people find out, but the people who know kind of have a vested interest in general public not finding out, especially
Mhm.
this marriage law, right? Like if I'm
Mhm.
Sonic and find pride in my lineage or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I want to make some people who are like even more evil than I am. And to do that, I need two Thonic parents, right? Like, I can
Mhm.
why you would want to keep her being Thonic a secret and impregnate her. Is this
Yeah.
like questionable and like getting into eugenics? Yes, absolutely. But does that
Well,
seem like something these people have an issue with? Not really.
no, I agree. And we didn't really talk about this like too much. And I genuinely do not know this answer yet. I am in the second book, but I'm nowhere near the answer to this in the second book. I don't even know if it's going to get answered. But we do find out in the beginning of this book when they are explaining like the Great War, how there were so many more Olympians and there were very few Thonics. They did lose some of the Thonics during this like Great War, but somehow they all agreed that to end the Great War, it was supposed to be that like the Thonic kids had to do this assembly of death thing and like have to hunt the Titans and essentially always put their life on the line. So my question is it really pride? Or to me, that sounds like the Olympians have something on the Thonics. They used it in the Great War to get them to agree because why would any of them agree to put their life on the lines? They're the ones who essentially have to be tortured. They're the like they got the shit end of the stick. And if it was like a compromise, and we don't know why. And again, I truly don't know the answer to that, but like they have something on them. Like something that like we don't know what it is yet, but like the Thonics have something. I don't know if it's they are more powerful and they like threaten to kill somebody. I don't know if it's they threaten to kill Augustus. So like all the leaders of the house agree that like they're gonna do this. I don't know, but like there is a reason. There is definitely a reason why the Thonics agreed to do this.
Hmm.
So to your point, I don't know if it's necessarily pride or if it's more like in order for us to like get back our freedom, we need Alexis's fact that she's a Thonic to be secret. Oh, we'll see. But I am trying to figure out why they agreed to this because it doesn't make any sense. Because book two, not that it's not a spoiler or anything, but it's the SGC. Like this is the whole point that they're doing the Crucible is for the like Spartan War Games. So it's like about the Spartan War Games, and I'm just like, why would the Thonics like ever agree to this? Like there has to be a reason that they're agreeing to this because it makes no goddamn sense. So we'll have to see. Chapter 18. The symposium. And it's an Alexis chapter. So Augustus is like leading the way and he's taking the initiates to the symposium. When they get there, it's just like bars and chairs and card games. It's like just like a room that you would have like a party in. But Augustus like heads off to a table with Petros and Achilles, and the rest of initiates like follow. They don't sit at that table, they sit like at a nearby table. But Alexis is like, nope. She goes in the opposite direction to a booth that's like hidden in the shadows covered with food. She is here for the food. She is not here for anything else. And so she just like starts eating, and but then she starts hearing pianists like play classical music. And as a reminder, she loves classical music. It's like how she like disassociates when like bad things are happening to her. And then as she's like eating, she hears Theros. And if we remember, Theros is Dax's mentor and the heir of Zeus. So they find like he says, like, oh, she's over here. And turns out that like Zeus was looking for her. So Zeus tries to get to know Alexis, and I'm putting this in quotes. He's like asking her question, like he's trying to have like a father-daughter bond. Spoiler alert, it does not go very well. Like so as Zeus and Alexis are talking, Zeus is like essentially like not impressed with her. He's like asking like, "Have you eaten enough? My stock are normally built strong and wide and not wimpy." And like he's just like insulting her all the time. Like he insults her stutter. He's like, "Did you always have the stutter? Like did you get help for it in the human world?" And then she thinks to herself, there's a time where it was a hazy memory when words did fall easily from my mouth, smooth and unbothered. But it was before the beatings had started long before I became who I was. She has to remember when the beating started. So we don't know when she was given to her foster parents, but like she does know how to speak without a stutter. I don't know if her stutter is her way of like protecting herself or making herself so like she doesn't have to speak with people. I don't know if that's her way of like doing that, but like she has not always had this stutter. So does she really know who she is? Does she really know what her powers are? And she's just hiding.
I mean, I think also part of it is like we are introduced to Alexis at like all of these ages where it's like, yeah, you are figuring stuff out, right? So that's part of it. And that's partially why it makes sense that she doesn't know. She also doesn't know because she's been living in a trauma response for an extended period of time. And she has lived the majority of her life in some variety of fight or flight. And so when you are in that position and you're just like, I just have to survive, you don't actually have the ability to figure out who you are or what you do or what your power might be, right? Even
Mhm.
here at the academy, it's so physically and mentally draining that she doesn't have the ability to try to figure out, like, where do I fall in here? What are these pieces? What's my power? That sort of thing. So she genuinely does not know, right? Even though when you compare her to her peers at the academy, it seems like she should. And her mentors and everybody around her make assumptions about her life with humans that are incorrect. And she doesn't bother to stop them or correct them because for her, it's not worth her time. So it is interesting to me that she brings up, like, yeah, there was a period in time where I didn't stutter, but I don't. Right, I think, like, when you hear that and, like, Zeus's response of, like, "Well, have you worked on yourself? Like, have you tried to not stutter?" Right? And it's like, I don't it doesn't come across as a sort of thing where, like, she's doing it on purpose as a defensive mechanism or on purpose as, like, putting up a wall or protecting herself, because she has in previous chapters talked about being bothered by it.
Mm. She also has said in previous chapters the only people she doesn't have a stutter with is Nyx and Charlie. So I don't know, maybe she feels comfortable with them. Well, Nick, she's speaking like a different language, which we know because like no one can understand her. She's like hissing every time she talks to Nick. So I do you have a stutter when you hiss? I have no idea, but like she's like literally hissing but Charlie's interesting because she said from like the first chapter or whatnot, she was like, "Oh, and I noticed I didn't have my stutter anymore with Charlie." So
But also her and Charlie sign.
they do because Charlie doesn't speak. Yeah, but she, like, talks to him, I think, like, as she's signing.
What if she does have a stutter with Charlie, but she doesn't know it because Charlie doesn't tell her because Charlie can't tell her?
Oh, I would love that plot twist, actually, so that's good, I like it. I like that. Um, so again, Zeus is sitting here insulting her, and she in this book, she could truly care less. All she cares about is eating. She's like, "Can you leave me alone?" in her head. Like, she does not care. This is Zeus. He's like the king, in quotes, of all the gods and all that. But then Zeus says, "Keep up the good work. There'll certainly be a spot for you because she's very bright. She's like doing very well in her test scores, and like Zeus's house is known for having like the brightest people. So he's just like, keep up everything that you're doing. There's definitely going to be a place for you, like once you finish the crucible. And who knows, I might also train you alongside my heir." And then, Zeus makes a comment about her eyes that like the different color eyes like runs like in his house or in his genes. However, he never remembers being with a woman with two colored eyes. So it makes us we all know she has it because one eye is blind. So it's not that she has anything, it's not genetics. But also I kind of want to be like, well, genetics, dude, sometimes one's a recessive gene, one's like a dominant gene. Like,
Yes,
just because you can't remember doesn't mean you didn't do.
there was a whole part of that conversation with Zeus that I was like, this is just an episode of Maury. It's like, it was totally like Zeus is coming out and the crowd is booing him. And he's just like, look, I don't make babies who aren't like strong. I don't make babies who are whatever, right? And like, and she's tall. He's not tall, right? She's tall.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
make babies who are tall, right? It it totally had that sort of vibe to it of, well, like everybody's making the assumption that she's from the House of Zeus, partially because of her hair, right? They have the same hair.
Yeah. It was the hair and eyes are the two reasons.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then he's looking at her and coming up with all of these reasons that it doesn't make sense to him. And then to also be like, well, I don't remember fucking your mom. I was just like, this is too good. I need mom to show up with like a picture of Alexis and Zeus side by side and be like, look at that nose, look at that hairline, look at that forehead. It was just a great episode waiting to happen.
Love it. We totally I mean, I've said my age 101 time on this, but we literally just aged ourselves with that because he's yeah. Oh my god. But when I came home from school, I would watch that. And it's funny because that show used to be like a good show, was like helping people do whatever, and then it just turned into you're the baby daddy. Like, I don't know, like,
Yeah.
at one time, the Murray Show was like, "Oh, we're gonna do makeovers, and we're gonna, like, help, and we're gonna do this," and, like, it completely changed. So,
Say though, it does still help people. Getting that paternity test is still helpful.
yeah, oh, no, 1,000%.
Getting that lie detector test is still helpful. It just also happens to be salacious.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Kind of like Judge Judy, same thing. Because she definitely got it, but yeah, I can go down a rabbit hole with that. But anyways, back to the book. Back to the book. Fun little tangent there. So then the lights start to like get dim and then the real fun starts. So then the sirens come out and the sirens are just like men and women walking around naked with like no clothes on, described as angels. And these angels are walking around and all they want to do is fuck. So everyone starts taking part in like sexual activities. And Alexis noticed her mentors again. Augustus has left. He's no longer at the table, but she noticed her mentors and she's kind of like watching them. But this time they see her watching them and they're like, oh, they pretty much are like, we're putting on a show for you at this point. And then she's like, as Petro gets into like Achilles' lap, she's like, "Oh, I can't look anymore." And like again, people are just walking around, and then Nyx is like, "Kid, look away. You're too innocent. You keep flinching every time you see a penis." I truly love Nyx. Like I love Nyx. And it's just safe to say that like Alexis is not using this as an opportunity to learn because I feel like she could probably learn a lot of shit right here about things she doesn't know. And she doesn't necessarily have to partake, right? They're in a symposium. Like if you want to watch, I think like that's part of the okayness of why you're there. But she's not taking this as a learning opportunity in any way, shape, or form. And so then Alexis and Nick start like kind of going back and forth a little bit, and then like Nyx like notices the sirens are like trying to get to someone at the piano, but like they can't see who's at the piano because he's covered with a column. But like people are like throwing themselves at this, and so like they're talking about that too. And then there's like a trio of sirens, or it was two sirens and like one other person, like start to have sex next to the column that they were just talking about, and Alexis laughs. And then a siren looks at Alexis and points at her and was like, "Are you laughing at us?" And then Alexis tries to explain, like, "No, no, I'm not laughing at you. Like, it's the situation I'm in. Like, it's hilarious." But remember, like 3 chapters earlier, we learned that sirens cannot speak to Spartans. They have their own language. They cannot speak. And Alexis is communicating with this siren. And the siren is like, "Do you understand me?" Alexis is like, "Yeah." And this siren starts screaming. She's like causing a scene. She's like crying happy tears because for this whole time, she's never been able to communicate with people outside of who, like her own people. And so then Nick says, "Oh, you can speak to me too. That must be your power, is that you can communicate with like creatures that like no one else can communicate with." So now Alexis is getting happy because she's finally thinks this is her power. And then the siren's like, "Oh my god, like let's play a game." Like they're gonna be besties now. Do you have anything to say about the symposium?
Okay. So I do think that there's part of the issue with Alexis is she does have this curiosity. And as she narrates her experience in the book, she doesn't seem to be ashamed in discussing that she has a curiosity, right? Which is why she was okay with watching her mentors and like, all of these bits. So I think part of it is that she's in the situation where like she could watch and have a conversation with Nyx and be like, what is this? What is that? What is whatever? But I don't think she wants other people to see her curiosity.
Okay.
I don't think she's comfortable with other people knowing that she wants this experience or she wants to learn these experiences or those sorts of things, right? Because then it comes with all this other stuff of like people touching her or treating her a certain way, right? All these things that she doesn't like. And that's part of why we see the discomfort of like, she's watching her mentors, they catch that she's watching and then they put on a show for her, you know? And it's almost like she doesn't want them to know that she wants to watch because then it changes the dynamic of how people perceive
Mm.
her or approach her or treat her. So I think she just, even though she has some of these curiosities, she just doesn't want other people to know it.
Okay. I like that, honestly. That is a great way to do that. I would also say that might fall in line with her being like a version. Like, obviously, like, I, sex is a part of life. I will talk about it to anyone. I don't think it's anything we should be ashamed of. Like, I know I grew up at least in a time where, like, I'm supposed to have, not been as okay with it. But also, she hasn't experienced this, so I do think it's like, oh, she is curious. But I think also, and sometimes until you experience something, you are like shy about it. You don't, because she wouldn't know how to do a lot of stuff, right? Like she might want to be taught, and maybe that's another conversation she doesn't want to have because she is smart, and she's like, I know all this and whatnot. But it could just be that she's just inexperienced, also. But I do like what you said. I do love that. Anyways, back to the book, chapter 19. The the devil you don't know. This is also an Alexis. Alexis agrees to like play this game with this siren, and seven more sirens join the table. The siren that Alexis first met is Lena, and she's again happy, screaming, crying, all these other things. And every other siren that joins the table is a female except for one. There's one male, and his name is Oran. So they start to like ask Alexis about the human world. They are intrigued and they ask, are humans sexually repressed prudes? And Alexis is like, no, most humans are open sexually. And it's just fun that they're asking her this because she's a sexually repressed prude.
Mhm.
Um, and again, just funny. But anyways, the sirens keep like asking Alexis questions. They're like, how many men have you been with? And Alexis can't answer that question. So they're like, well, how many women have you been with? Alexis still can't answer the question. They're like creatures, mentors, centaur, like they start naming like all these different things, and Alexis like can't answer anything. And then Alexis tells them she's like never had sex before, and Lena and like just starts screaming, crying again, and causing attention. And she's like, "You're the repressed prude. You have such a miserable life. Like, how are you living?" And then the male siren is like, "Oh, hey, we could change that right now." And Alexis is like, "No." But again, this is an opportunity to learn. Like, she doesn't necessarily have to have sex. She This whole group of table are, well, from what we know, very let's have sex anywhere sirens, right? She could just be like, you two do it and teach me. Like, she doesn't necessarily have to participate, but like she can learn so much, I think, for someone who's like looking at penises on a computer because she has nothing else better to do. But whatever. She doesn't take this opportunity to learn. Um, then she changes the subject and she just like, let's play the card game. Turns out this card game involves knives. Pretty much this card game is like a card game mixed with musical chairs. Once like a certain type of card or suit is played, everyone has to grab a knife. There's one less knife than there are people, and the person who doesn't get the knife needs to do a dare. So time is passing. Everyone's having a great time. Alexis keeps grabbing the knife by the sharp side, and she is cutting herself because it's mentioned like a few times that she has to like clean her hands on her toga before she like grabs the knives again. So then Alexis is also like drinking and eating. And Alexis is like, why am I feeling good? And Lena responds, oh, it's probably the ambrosia, a tasteless spice that's in your food or drinks. AKA they're just roofing people like right now.
But I mean, they're drugging themselves, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're all going to and they're understanding that, like, there's ambrosia in everything. But, Alexis doesn't know that. And so with her finding that out, I also go back to the previous chapter where she starts making these relationships with the sirens, and there's the excitement of like, you can speak to us, right? And the sirens have this appreciation for her. So I think
Mm,
being intoxicated and also experiencing this respect and this excitement from other beings that she normally doesn't get were a combination that were just like sending her like over the moon.
oh, I love that too. Adding your natural high. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Um, but the sirens are like, "Oh, but don't worry because you're half human. This shouldn't affect you too much. It only impacts full-blooded Spartans the worst." So then the male Spartan tries to like lightly seduce Alexis, and I say lightly because it causes Alexis to miss her turn to like grab the knives, and she loses, so she must do it air. And I think he is a sexual creature, so I do think he was like flirting with her, but like up until now, they kept saying that like Alexis hadn't lost a round. So I do think it was like his way of like trying to get her to lose a round. And I'm like, oh, how appropriate, Alexis. Someone who's seducing you to do something what you should be doing to the other initiates. But of course, we're not going to take this as a learning opportunity. So, um, and they dare her to get naked in front of everybody. And so Alexis is feeling herself. Thank you, Ambrosia. And so she slowly starts to strip, if we can call it that. She like shows off her thighs. She lifts up her skirt, but she has shorts on. She's like showing her arms. Like it's not necessarily the strip tease we would think it would be. But then finally, she like pulls her toga down where she can like flash people. And at that moment, the music stops. The Something is happening with like the pianist. His chair is like thrown and he starts to come toward her. And that is when Alexis realized it's Karen for the first time. And then she also realizes that she's heard these songs before. And it was when she was right after the massacre, when she was like in and out of consciousness. So she's like, he's been with me this whole time. She just thinking that. And Alexis is still lowering her toga because she's like, it's still doing the action, but like shocked. And then Augustus appears and he asks Alexis, like, what the fuck are you doing? And he grabs her like neck and like pulls the toga like back up. And Alexis, or I'm sorry, not Alexis. These A names are like pissing me off. Augustus. Augustus reprimands Alexis like aggressively, but there's a lot of sexual undertones while he's like reprimanding her. Again, Alexis being as vanilla as she is, she's getting turned on, but doesn't realize these are all the reasons why she's getting turned on. And Augustus just tells her, I'm done pretending. Like, I'm just like done pretending. Lena tries to defend her, and like Oron puts his arm around Alexis and tells her like they'll protect her. But now Alexis is panicking because he's touching me and he's naked. So she like tries to get out of the booth to like calm her panic, but like Oren like follows her out. Again, he I think he like cares for her like as a friend. Like he's like, I want to make sure you're okay. Lena's also following them out. But then Augustus like grabs Oren by the neck and yells like, if you lay a finger on her, you'll have to answer to me, and shows his gun. And now Alexis' panic attack is full blown because she's like, why are we being violent? Why is all this going on? Augustus tells Alexis to leave or else. And Lena's like, don't leave if you don't want to. Gus is like, I'm not doing this bullshit, throws her over his shoulder and starts to head out the door. And as chaos breaks out, uh, and Gus is walking out the door, she sees a a Spartan shoving a siren, falling to the ground, screaming, and she was foaming at the mouth. So then Alexis tries to get Augustus to like put her down, and she's kicking and screaming. And Augustus says, 1 hour. Kick me one more time, and I'll add an hour on top of the punishment you've already earned. And Augustus is confused, and she's like, "Why am I getting a punishment? When did you say I got a punishment?" She has no idea what's going on. And Nyx is just enjoying all this, and she just tells Alexis, "Augustus is really into you." And Alexis is like, "You're crazy. No, he's not. He hates me." And Nyx responds, "You need to get digged down." I love Nyx because Alexis does need some vitamin D at some point. She could have had it at the symposium, but she chose not to do it. So as Augustus is carrying her, Alexis just like falls asleep, and she wakes up and she hears voices, but she's alone in the library. And Alexis then starts to remember her night, and then she remembers the siren, and she starts to blame herself. And as she sits by the fire, she finds that there's like a blanket, and looks like someone like tucked her in. And she's like, "Why would someone tuck me in?" But anyway, she decides she's alone. She's like, "I'm just gonna study. The boys won't have to be back until like the sun, like right before the sun comes up or something." So she opens up her book, and a note falls out, and the note says like, "Leave Sparta or there'll be dire consequences. You have until the initiation ball in January to disappear." And Alexis just thinks this is Titus or Alexander. But then Alexis finds like a violet box with like a black bow and a gold trim around it with her name written on it. So she's never really gotten presents before. So she's super excited to get a present because she was poor. She like, couldn't afford a present. And when she opens it, she's like disgusted. In there are four objects. There are two eyeballs, a smashed nose, and a severed male finger with gold chunky rings. Blood spattered on all of them. And earlier in the chapter, the only person who had these gold chunky rings were Oron. So he is now dead. Parts of him are in this box that was given to her. And Nex is like freaking out. She like moves or knocks the box over, and she noticed something glittering underneath, but she like doesn't look into like what it could possibly be. She just like takes the box outside. She digs a hole and she puts the box in it. And so for the second time, she thinks to herself, someone died because of me. So she also has like been giving him her version of like a burial, like by burying him that way. So like the boys come back, and Drex tries to like talk to Alexis to like make her feel better about like Augustus just like carrying her out. And then Alexis is like, "Why do you speak about Thonix like that when you are one?" And he's like, "What? No, I'm not." And Alexis is like, "I saw you in the massacre, like using your power." And Drax is like, "No, don't tell anyone, but my ability is endurance, which is why I do so well in the circuits." And Alexis is just wondering then who killed the boys at the massacre when she starts to hear those voices again. As she asks Drax, like, "Do you hear these voices?" And he's like, "I don't hear anything." So then Alexis tries to forget like what's going on. She tutors Drax, and then another initiate joins them, Maximum, and she is very annoyed. She does not like Maximum. She's not trying to be Maximum's friend, but Alexis just feels dead inside. So this is just her trying to process and like cope with things. Chapter 20, The Pianist. We get Karin's point of view a few hours early at the symposium. So the whole night Karin's been watching Alexis and is disgusted with like the sirens who keep trying to get at him. And he regrets ever fucking them to begin with because his power is to like let you feel like what he's feeling or like a different sensation. So essentially when he's fucked these sirens before, he used their power, and they're just like so addicted to like what they're feeling. But then he said when he only has eyes for Alexis, and when he noticed that she was trying to put on her toga, he got pissed. Well, before he got pissed, he got turned on. So he started to loosen up his belt. I feel like you're right, telling me you had so much issue with this chapter. He starts to loosen his belt and starts to pawn himself through his pants. Alexis was covered in dirt, blood, and smiling. She looked like an angel to him. But then when Haran realizes that Alexis is like what she's doing, she's about to flash people, he gets up from the piano and heads to her, but Augustus gets to her first, and in his head chokes her gently. That's not what Alexis told us. He's telling us choked her gently. Augustus and Karen have apparently shared people over the years, and they preferred like fucking together. So this is their preferred method. It just helps them. This is nothing new. They share people all the time. But Karen has never felt like this before. Pride filled him as he was watching Alexis and Augustus like do their thing, and as like Alexis was like melting to Augustus' touch. And so then Karen thinks to himself, things are progressing faster than I thought. The timeline needs to be accelerated. End of the chapter. Go ahead. Tell me everything that you had an issue with in this chapter.
Okay.
Because I was reading this and I was like, Danielle is gonna tell me so much about this.
I got thoughts. So I can understand the perspective that Alexis has. If you are not someone who participates in consensual choking or kink choking or however you want to define that,
Mhm.
yes, someone doing that to you is going to be alarming. But even in
Mhm.
that Alexis describes it, there's this point where she very specifically describes that he's holding her like this and his thumb goes down, right? And I'm like, that's a whole other thing, honey. And there's a part of me where I'm like, dude, choke her and spit in her mouth because that is witchcraft. That is witchcraft. You spit in somebody's mouth, you own them. Like legit.
And I feel like he wants to do that though. Like I feel like he is no stranger to this and he wants to do that.
Yeah. Right. And I think part of this too is like, is we go back to these men telling Alexis to behave. Right. And like, Alexis doesn't know what it is to be a good girl. Right. Like in that way
Yeah.
or in that terminology. Right. I'm like,
I don't even think she knows how to be a bad girl in that way or
right.
terminology. Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, you come up to me and choke me and tell me to behave. Yeah. Instant. Done. You got it. Like,
Yeah.
you're going to throw me over your shoulder and hold me so hard you bruise me and carry me home? Yes, please. Yes, sir. Like, we are in. But one thing that I did find interesting when we get to um Karen and the way that he's talking about it, of like, he sees the intimacy in the way that Augustus is treating her, right? Partially because he has shared partners with that man, but also because that from what we can tell, that also seems to be the kind of play and the kind of like dom sub relationship that he's into. I will say with Augustus, it certainly seems to be more like Augustus is taking power. And with Karen, it seems that he's much more interested in earning that power. So I think that's a
Mm.
slightly different dynamic between the two of them, which also causes me to have my own personal preference of
Mm.
which one I think is more suitable. Um, but one thing that I did find interesting is Carmen specifically says that he and Augustus have shared partners because when you are two people being intimate with one person, it prevents that one person from being attached. And that is so wildly inaccurate to me.
I will say, I think you know what? Go ahead. I'm gonna let you do this. I do think his opinion might change later.
It just right. I think it's these two people, or it's Karen making the assumption that like if we behave in this way, it prevents that other person from having
Mhm.
attachment. But what we learn from the symposium and the way that like the sirens treat him or other Spartans treat him is people are drawn to him, right? And people who have had previous sexual experiences with him want more. So what he's saying doesn't match up with how people react to him or how people.
No, it does. Maybe they are trying to no one is running to Augustus. So all those people are preferring oh, I see what you mean. It would stop him from doing that and okay, I'm backwards. I see, yeah.
So people
Um,
do have that attachment. It doesn't keep
mhm,
being attached.
gotcha. I don't know if it's being attached. Okay, so you're right. You're right. But something else I didn't say here, but in the book, they do say that like the sirens when they're like talking about the person playing the piano because we don't know who he is right now, they're saying that, like, he gives like, without saying orgasm, they say you will have toe, like, scrunching, you won't believe ecstasy, essentially orgasm, but it's also him using his powers. So, I don't know, like, yeah, but they're preferring him because of his powers. Are they preferring him because of not his powers? Like, they just want that feeling. They're like, addicts trying to, get this high that they experience.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine having powers and them not coming out in any sort of intimate situation, right? I think that would be difficult to control.
Agreed.
And we haven't gotten to a part in the book yet where they say that or not, or they explain that or not, right? But it's like, everything's a little more loosey goosey when you're in
Mhm.
that realm. So I could see it being difficult to control that. Um, I think additionally, and I'm just again my own preferences and how I engage in these worlds, like I could fully understand being with Augustus and Karen and choosing Karen because as a sub, I don't like it if you are demanding power from me or if you are taking power from me. I want the kind of exchange where I can perceive that you understand that I am giving you something. I am giving you my trust. I am giving you the ability to treat my body this way. And I can also choose to take that from you. And Augustus doesn't operate like that. But to me, from where we're at in the book so far, Chiron does. And so it would make sense to me that these sirens or these Spartans or these whoever approach him and are like, yeah, Augustus, whatever. Like,
Love this point of view, and I'm gonna say interesting because I don't wanna say more, and I want you to remind me if I don't remember that I said interesting at this point later on,
got it. Will do.
so I could tell you, so I could talk more. But I absolutely love this, point of view. Between the 2 men, I think I also would choose Karin. Not like, I don't know, not that they both wouldn't protect me, but, like, right now, I feel like he's gonna do a little better job protecting me than Augustus. My answer might change later on, but, like,
Part of that,
that is my answer right now.
yes. But I think part of that is because it has clearly been shown to us the way in which Augustus is quick to anger.
Mhm.
And that can be frightening with intimacy, right?
That's true, but Augustus is also playing devil's advocate. Augustus is, like, in the classroom with her all the time, so she has been exposed to Augustus much more than she's been exposed to Karin because she only ever sees Karin during the river because he's, like, the ferryman, and they don't always have to do the circuit. And occasionally at the house when she's at her mentor's, like, he'll have some form of interaction with her, but it's nowhere near the amount of time she's spending with Augustus. So I do think that matters also. But anyways, our sassy conversation for today. So, our sassy topic today is if we are protecting, and I'm putting protecting in quotes,
Okay.
someone, and we have power to enter and control their mind, are we violating them? Is there a difference if we're doing something against someone's will that we love them and we're genuinely trying to protect them, whether our version is skewed, versus us doing the exact same thing to someone we hate? Great questions. I know.
Even just taking,
First, I guess,
even just taking,
would you consider him violating her? Sorry. Would
yes,
you consider that he's violated her? Okay,
yeah.
go ahead.
So, like, even just taking the Augustus and Alexis example that we have, right, of when he enters her mind. Again, it's an example of you are taking from me without me giving to you. There is, and it's even beyond consent, right? Because, and I think of it outside of the realm of the book. I think of it in like
Yeah,
intimacy,
everyday
like
life.
a
Yeah.
bedroom or like kink parties or something like that, right? And especially in like queer sex and things like that, there's a lot of conversation beforehand of this is how this is gonna go. This is like how we touch and how we whatever, right? Especially when you get into relationships with like non-binary people or people who might have body dysmorphia, right? Like there are explicit conversations of like, how do you want your genitalia treated? You know?
Mhm.
Um, so I come from these sorts of ideas of like, this is how consent works, that it's kind of like outlined beforehand. And if you have an issue in the moment, you need to say it out loud. And so there's this weird power dynamic with Augustus and Alexis where he is absolutely violating her. There is no consent for that sort of thing. Um, and she is frightened by it. She is alarmed by it. And she has to do this work to like force him out. Right. So he's setting up a situation where she feels unsafe with him. And he is actively choosing to do that. So yes, that is a violation, right? And you're not taking over her mind and being like cooing in her ear, but like via her mind, right? Like you're taking over her mind and you're being a shithead. You're taking over her mind and you're being violent about it. And what you're doing, the thoughts that you're putting in there are also violent and threatening.
Mhm.
That's inappropriate. Especially because now we know that he does have some variety of care and concern for her.
Okay. I will get behind that answer. Just the second part, do you think there's a difference if we're doing to someone that we love to protect or for someone that we don't or we wanna hurt?
Yeah.
You can elaborate?
Like it's like if it's someone that I gotta like think about it, but
Okay, that's fair, that's fair.
if it's someone that you wanna hurt, right? You actually like, I want to do harm to this person. Then to me, what Augustus did makes sense, right? And doing it without consent and like doing it in a way to be violent towards the other person and to scare the other person. Your intent behind it is different, you know? And I'm not saying that like it's right either way, that like that if you do that to somebody that you care about, it's wrong. And if you do it to somebody that you hate, it's okay. If you are someone, ooh, and I suspect this now about Augustus, now that I just thought it. If you are someone who has the capability to do that, and you can't differentiate the right and wrong between doing it to people you care about and doing it for hate or doing it for like evil or intimidation or whatever, if you can't differentiate between those two, that's a problem. Go to therapy, girl. You got to get that sorted
Yeah,
out.
I agree. Mhm, mhm.
Augustus needs therapy.
Oh, I think they all need therapy, but yes, yes, yes. Okay, for me is in the real world, first of all, he absolutely violated her. So I just want before we do go anywhere, he absolutely violated her. He did something against her will. She said no. He did it anyways. Absolutely no, no. In the real world, this is absolutely no. Gus is a scum underneath my shoe. You know, not to bring the little rascals into this, but he's a terrible man. No one should be with him. Now, in the talking about like a fictional book with a morally gray character, I'm here for it. Totally here for it. Because I know then if we get to a spicy scene, it might be a little spicier because of this whole situation. I don't know. But for fictional purposes, I'm okay with this, right? Real life, don't ever do that. He he sits here and says men who hurt women like deserve to die. Like that's you in the real world. If we're being honest, like he said that a few times in like a few chapters back 1000%. Again, for books, I'm okay with it. And as for the next question, like, do we think if we're doing it best for someone that we love or someone we hate or we want to hurt? I think this is a hard question to understand because I think all of us in society do this. We think we're protecting people that we love and we might do things that hurt them and we don't see it that way. And versus if it was someone I didn't like or didn't care about or hated, I could take the same action and I would have a different feeling towards that, right? Parents do it all the time. Our families do it all the time. They think they know what's best for us. It may not necessarily be what's best for maybe if I'm 3, right? I don't know what's best for me. But if I'm a grown ass woman and you're going against something that I'm saying, like you have to let me live my life at that point. So like it's very hard because then I could do the same thing to someone else who's a stranger and I'm like, that's fine. I don't have any qualms with it. So I think there's just like a gray area and I know I asked the question, but I do think there's a gray area on this. But I do think we should all have our own choice to make whether we agree with someone or not. And sometimes we can tell people, "I don't agree with you, but I'm gonna support you." Or, "I wouldn't do this. I think you're wrong, but I'm gonna let you do you." Right? Like, I do think we can do that. But yeah,
See,
so those are my 2
I
cents.
think I'm a little bit opposite with it. Like, if you move it from the book into the real world, right? Like, if we move that into the real world and I'm like having some sort of intimacy with Augustus or something like that, right? And he's like, right, if there's the conversation beforehand of like, I want to do this to you, here's how I would do it, right? Like, if you can give me that understanding, I'd probably be like, yeah, okay, right?
Mm.
But
Mhm.
then as soon as you don't do it in like in the way that you said, or like like as soon as you become threatening in a way that's like not appropriate based on what we've lined up, that's when I take
You're
issue
scared.
with it. But
Yeah, and you're scared.
if you're like, yeah, I'm gonna take over your mind and you're gonna be a good girl, I'm like, yeah, okay, you bet.
Yeah. Oh, 1000% gonna agree with that too.
The other thing that you bring up too with Augustus and how he has previously said like men who hurt women are like the scum of the earth or
Mhm.
the universe or whatever.
Yeah.
He's very clearly drawing that line at physical hurt.
Yes, he definitely is.
And this is something that like exists a lot in relationships is people define trauma or hurt or whatever in these very specific ways, right? Like they draw a line of like, well, it's only abuse if it's physical. It's only like this if I get hit or something like that, you know? And so he's very clearly doing that and not understanding that how you can harm someone goes way beyond their physical being.
Mm.
And it makes me think of like, oh my God, there's these dumb ass videos that I've been seeing on Instagram or whatever where people are like, it's like dudes with their wives and they're like, when she's mad at you and won't pay attention to you, but you don't hit women. That's like what it will say. Is that's like when she's
My God, that is terrible. I'm definitely not that side on Instagram or TikTok or anything.
so
Ugh.
it's these dudes who will like, and I'm sure these videos are set up, right? Because they're
Yeah, like they're fake. Yeah, yeah, but still.
but it's like one of them is this guy who's like his wife is like cleaning the kitchen. She's like sweeping or mopping the floor or whatever. And he goes up to her to like try to get a kiss from her. But she's like mad at him, so she like backs away. And then he reaches in the cabinet and gets a container of goldfish and spills goldfish all over the floor that she was just cleaning. And this is supposedly to be like some sort of example of like, oh, she's dissing me, but I don't hit her. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, you're a baby
Yeah,
throwing a temper tantrum. Like, this isn't any better. You're still a piece.
yeah,
And that, like,
yeah.
when you
No.
said that about Augustus, it instantly made me think of that.
Well, because I mean, let's just talk about Alexis in this. Like, she has clearly has physical trauma, but she also has mental trauma. We literally explained how she feels like she's not lovable or like she doesn't have confidence in herself. She's making shit up because she doesn't think she's strong enough to even do any of this. Like, so I mean, she definitely like your mental state, your sanity is just as important as your physical health. So, and like someone touching you or any of these things. So, I mean, I think in specifically with Alexis, like it is a great point to like bring up that there's more than just physical. And he's drawing the line at physical. No, but then we can even say he did physically hurt her because he did make her to the point where she bled.
She bled.
So, yeah, I know.
Imagine bleeding out your eyes.
Yeah. No, she bled out of her eyes, her nose. They said that it started with her eyes, but, like, throughout whatever, it was, like, coming out of her nose and her ears, like, you did that to her. So, like, yeah, like, again, real life, not cool. In the book, I'm here for it. So, morally gray man never hurt anybody, in a book setting.
You
In a fictional
just
world.
first. You just gotta ask and set up the scenario so I know what I'm agreeing to.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Uh, Woo. Okay, I love our conversations. Can't wait till we get to a little bit more chapters
Yeah.
to have conversations. I can't wait for our conversations for book 2. I think we're gonna have a lot more um things to talk about and like things to bring up. So really excited about that. But that's all the time we have for next week. We'll cover the next couple of chapters. But thanks for everything. Bye, Danielle.
E